Thank you to the panel members for inviting Energy Safety Canada to participate in this important hearing. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to you about the workplace safety implications of legalized cannabis. As a National Safety Association for the oil and gas industry, Energy Safety Canada advocates for worker health and safety. We are committed to the safety of our workers and the communities where we operate. The national oil and gas industry is inherently safety sensitive given the materials and equipment used. Different components of the industry, including storage, transportation, drilling, processing, etc., all pose significant safety risks. Further, given the flammable nature of natural gas and oil, risks are increased in the event of a leak or a spill. Workers are mobile and travel from one site to another, frequently accessing public highways and going through small communities. As a result of the hazardous nature of industrial work sites, owner companies and workers must exercise the utmost care and attention. An oil and gas worker's use of drugs, including cannabis, whether casual, prescribed, or arising from a dependency, has the potential to create unacceptable safety risks. Given the carryover effect of cannabis, these risks can occur regardless of whether use occurs at work or in close temporal proximity to when an employee will report to work. Our concern is the legalization will normalize and increase the overall use of cannabis, introducing the potential for increased risk. Industry can expect increased instances of impairment in the workplace and a corresponding increase in safety incident rates. Studies confirm there is a correlation between cannabis use and injury. For example, one study showed male cannabis users had a 28% higher rate of hospitalization due to injury than non-users, and female users had a 37% higher rate of the same. There can be no doubt that cannabis use is incompatible working in safety-sensitive environments. Cannabis use by drivers has been associated with increased accidents and fatalities. Performance deficits associated with cannabis are incompatible with working in safety-sensitive environments and have demonstrated to last after use. Studies have indicated that performance deficits can last up to 2 days after using low doses of marijuana. Over the last decade, the use of alcohol and drugs in our industry has been a pressing safety concern. The Cannabis Act adds another layer of complexity to this existing issue. The implications of workers attending work unfit for duty in safety-sensitive environments can and has resulted in serious safety consequences that could affect not only workers but also the environment, surrounding communities, and the public. Oil and gas employers have significant legislative obligations to ensure the safety of their workers, including maintaining a safe work environment. Employers in the oil and gas sector must address workplace hazards, including those associated with alcohol and drugs. If a workplace hazard is identified, employers have a legal obligation to take corrective steps to eliminate, or, if not reasonably possible, to control the hazard. The Criminal Code also imposes a duty on employers to ensure a safe workplace by imposing a legal duty to take reasonable steps to prevent bodily harm to that person or any other person arising from that work or task. We believe these legal obligations will become more difficult to fulfill with the legalization of recreational cannabis, particularly given the current limitations around workplace testing. Presently, there are no tests for impairment, only presence and likely impairment. This presents a significant concern to employers who are legally required to keep employees safe while at work. Further research needs to be conducted to provide a standardized testing solution for impairment. We ask the Government of Canada to recognize the reality and enact detailed alcohol and drug legislation that will equip Canadian employers with the tools they need to effectively manage risk, operate safely, and meet their legislative duties. Specifically, we would like to see a practical, legally acceptable workplace roadside testing protocol for cannabis, including identification of acceptable technologies and standardized methodology. Workplace alcohol and drug testing regulations permit employers to test safety-sensitive workers on a pre-employment and random basis. With the right controls, legal framework, and legislative certainty in place, the application of random testing would improve the employer's ability to manage the risk to workers and to the public. Amendments to the Canadian Labour Code to clearly prohibit workers from entering a workplace under the influence of cannabis or any other drug without prior medical authorization and employer approval. And finally, further education and research on the impacts of cannabis and impairment and the appropriate testing technologies must go hand in hand with the legislation. We believe these changes would give employers the tools needed to manage the risks to workers and the public presented by Bill C-45. One of the stated purposes of the Cannabis Act is to protect the public health and public safety. We believe the impact of legalizing cannabis on safety-sensitive workplaces is something that needs to be specifically addressed. With that, Mr. Chairman, committee members, thank you for including Energy Safety Canada and our perspectives in your discussion today. We look forward to your questions.